We've been going a while, but I think it's important that we touch on one more video game here. That's Sonic Frontiers. I know Sonic Frontiers has been a very mixed reception for a variety of reasons. So this was originally revealed, I think, last year at the Game Awards. Could be wrong, maybe longer ago than that, but it's been a little bit. And I think at the time everyone knew that it was going to be like an open world Sonic game. I think that was a pretty much a given at that point. So it was interesting to see or think about like what that execution would look like. And I think the thing that I've always been excited about with a possible open world Sonic game is somebody who's not that like, I do not like open world games very much, to be honest with you. A lot of it comes down to empty space and not enough happening moment to moment that makes it interesting. I feel that Breath of the Wild fits within this to some degree, although there's things that Breath of the Wild do very well. We'll probably talk a little bit about that today. But I think that's a real struggle with open world games, is making sure the player stays engaged as they explore your world. And the things they're doing doesn't just feel like busy work. It feels like something that is like an actual experience that you're having. I think that's a real problem open world games have. I don't think people necessarily agree with me on that, but that's me personally with that regard. So I typically like more structured linear games. So in the case of this, though, I think one of the really big promises with Sonic in an open world environment is his speed, obviously. And so with his speed, I think that it could potentially make it so you could have those larger, emptier elements in the stage, but still move around really quickly. You know, I hate going back to Breath of the Wild again, but like I think about like how when speedrunners play Breath of the Wild games and how they kind of like launch themselves across the plains and things like that. So much so that the game can't even load stuff 100% as quick, so the game will like stop for a little bit and be like, wait, let me load some more assets in. But I would be really interested to see a Sonic game that maybe not approaches that level specifically, but captures that kind of feeling of moving incredibly quick over this open world. Now, the challenge with that is that, you know, when you have an open world like that and you're moving that quickly, chances are the things you're going to find in the world are going to be kind of hard to kind of get the player to notice if you're going so fast. And they seem to be taking a very like Breath of the Wild approach to kind of the elements in the world with like, hey, there's like puzzles spread out and things like that. I think the unfortunate part of this so far of what they've showed, I think they're going to plan to show more. This is like the IGN first. I think they showed off like 14 minutes of gameplay up until this point. The unfortunate part, I think, from a structural perspective, is that at least all the actual content they've showed of what the player will do and progress has been these like Breath of the Wild style puzzles that just seem very whatever. Like it is just kind of like, okay, you can do like this little block puzzle thing that's like not particularly anything Sonic focused. It's just kind of there. There's like a ring you can get into run in, and I'm like, I don't think they show mechanically how that works to mash the button or whatever. And there's like a tower you can climb. The tower you can climb is maybe the most interesting because he can dash up the sides of the tower. Although at some point he starts like climbing normally, and then he like stops doing that randomly. I'm like, okay, what happened there? But like I think that approach to the open world is maybe a little underwhelming. Now, if that's just like essentially the Breath of the Wild Korok seeds, I don't think that's a big deal. You know, I think what the Korok seeds do in Breath of the Wild is it's not really content for the game. It's more of just ways to draw the players to different areas. And so to keep the player just moving, always following that carrot on a stick to the next place. You solve the little puzzle, and then you look off in the distance, and there's the next little puzzle. That's where I'm going to go next. You can draw the player around in that way and make sure they're always kind of interacting with something along the way. So they remember those moment-to-moment aspects as they kind of go across the world. Though I feel like in the case of Breath of the Wild, those ideas extend so far across the open world that at some point all that stuff becomes almost completely unmemorable. So I don't know how that implementation is, but you know, I think that's a problem in Breath of the Wild, and so Sonic Frontiers doesn't really seem to be showing it in a way that or doing it in a different way that makes me like really confident. But what I did like about this game when I saw it was like the movement aspects of Sonic in the world itself. He maybe, I'm a little split. It's hard to tell at times like how fast he is going, because the standard walk speed definitely seems a little slower than I'd like, or standard run speed. But it does seem like eventually you can build up enough speed and maybe start dashing. It was hard to tell in the video footage that they're showing if like you can only dash a little bit because you have like an energy meter, or if like you run enough you like get up to a higher speed. There were times that Sonic was moving as fast as I wanted him to through that world, and how he was reacting to the world itself was also very, I think, overall good good, being able to kind of wall run on the sides of mountains and things like that. These are the kind of things I want out of that Sonic moveset in an open world like that. You're going to need a very momentum-focused gameplay style, I think, to make the best use of that open world environment in a uniquely Sonic way. And I feel like I saw some people complaining about like how the physics don't like make a lot of sense. Like when you jump on a rail, you just kind of shoot off rather than just like having a rail like, slow you down. So you have to build up speed first and then get on the rail. I think that's just too much to worry about in an open world environment where you're just trying to get somewhere. So maybe that makes more sense from like a more like straightforward design kind of perspective, but I just don't think it makes a lot of sense in the context of just trying to get around the open world and do things. So I'm actually pretty happy with the movement. Some of the animation's janky, but I'll be honest with you, I feel like every Sonic game has janky animation, so I'd be impressed if they got away with something that actually looks nice. I as somebody who has enjoyed Sonic games in the past, I maybe shouldn't say I'm a Sonic fan per se, but has enjoyed Sonic games in the past, I understand that the quality of those games from a mainstream like good game perspective and quotes there, just the Sonic games just don't meet that, the 3D ones at least. For if that's bad or good, it's a whole other thing. I kind of don't really care that much, but when you think about this game in the context of like who's it going to appeal to and things like that, that is kind of one thing that I think the 3D Sonic games really have to work hard to break that barrier, and I don't know if they ever will. I think Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations is probably the closest they have, but those games honestly ultimately rely a lot on 2D sections. Colors less so than Generations, but then also Generations is probably more favorably viewed than Colors in some ways. So I think that's like the stuff that I've definitely noticed in that. And then the combat showcase that they showed off. I don't know how to feel about this because I don't know if what they showed off was just like a bad presentation of combat or if it was that's what the combat is and it's not going to be like, I don't know. So I mentioned earlier how like in the open world, you want Sonic to just kind of be moving, right? You want Sonic to be able to jump on a jump pad and just fly, keep on running, get on a rail. You want Sonic to get from one mountain to another really, really fast. In my opinion, that's what we're looking at. Sonic, you need to get from one mountain to the other really, really fast and really cool. And I feel like Sonic they're on that path to that. Whether they succeed in it, another thing, but I think I see the pieces there that make me happy. But when you think about the combat perspective of the game, what they showed off in the 7 minutes IGN footage was a lot of enemies that take a lot of time to kill. And I will tell you one thing, I have never felt that a Sonic game where you're fighting an enemy that takes multiple hits to kill has ever felt that good. I think Sonic needs to hit something and it needs to blow up, basically. I'm not saying you can't necessarily have that, but I think that needs to be your focus. And there are enemies in this game that seem to be maybe that more approach. But this video is definitely focused on very long-term fights with larger enemies, and some of them are more interesting than others for sure. But I think when I think about what's probably happening in that gameplay, where like Sonic is like basically hitting this thing over and over again, you're probably literally just mashing the jump button over and over and over again. And then once the enemy is done with you, they knock you away kind of thing. Or you jump away if you get too spooked by the enemy glowing or something like that. So I think that's my real concern is just like, I don't think there's enough depth in what they showed in that combat on a one-on-one fight for long term to make it interesting. Now, they do have like kind of flashy special moves. How you activate those, I think, is kind of up in the air at the moment. So maybe there's some aspect of that, but still, they didn't look that like crazy effective. I don't know. It looked a little underwhelming. But there is like some large scale, almost like Shadow of the Colossus kind of fights, and this looks similar to like the tower sections of the game as well, where there's some interesting aspects to having to like climb up this thing and then fight them on the top. So I think that could be cool as well. But yeah, I just think the focus of that trailer at the very least was on these enemies that I think do not show that game in the best light, and I don't think that's Sonic's strength, to be honest. I feel stupid saying a little bit saying hey, like Sonic's strength is going fast, because I feel like there's other games in the past where I've argued against that. Sonic the Hedgehog 1, I think, is a great example of like, yeah, you can go fast in that game, but I don't think its strength necessarily is going fast. It's strength if you memorize that game. But if you don't memorize that game, Sonic as a platformer is interesting on its own as a platformer going slow. But anyways, so I don't think like I'm not somebody who's like, hey, Sonic has to go fast to be good. But I think given this world and the structure they're doing, I think that would be pretty important. So, there's like this weird Knights thing as well, where you can kind of like draw these lines on the ground. They haven't really shown a lot about that. Like they used to like flip some enemies over and things like that. That could be cool depending on how they utilize it. It's just one of those things that they haven't like showed too much about. So I'm just kind of like, maybe it's cool. I don't know. It could be completely useless and only used in specific scenarios, or it could be cool. So we'll see. I'm cautiously optimistic about Sonic the Hedgehog or Sonic Frontiers. I think the weird thing for me was like, and I could be wrong, you know, when you're online, you're in your own echo chambers and things like that. Even if you try really hard to get in different like groups and things like that, ultimately you're only as wide-ranging view as the furthest person out of your group, and also what Twitter is wanting to show you. Because if you don't interact with that person that's way out there, then Twitter's going to show you less of it, right? So like, but the impression I get is that both people who like classic Sonic games are unhappy, and people who like modern Sonic games are unhappy. 3D Sonic games. I could be wrong about that. That's the impression I'm getting. And I think I'm really kind of lost looking at, like, what do people want out of Sonic at this point? I will say I've been waiting for Sonic to change, I think, for a while. Because I think about the fact that, like, I feel like Sonic Generations, Unleashed, and Colors kind of established this play style of Sonic game that has kind of extended into what we have today still. And I think that game has been, you know, it's moved a little bit, but like the core play style has felt very similar, I think, not having played Sonic Forces myself. And so I feel like it's time. I feel like it's been time for a while that 3D Sonic needs to change again. And I just think about what could have been done differently, other than, you know, some of the smaller tweaks here and there. And a lot of this stuff, I think, at times could just be a bad presentation of the content. It could be that they're still working on it, things like that. I don't remember when it's coming out. Is it next year? I don't remember. I just feel like I'm a little at a loss of what people want that isn't just do the old thing again. And like, for me personally, again, not as a Sonic fan, as somebody who just has enjoyed Sonic games in the past, I think I just sit there and wonder what that is. I definitely don't want like another Sonic Colors or another Sonic Generation or Sonic Unleashed. We've had those games. I'm ready to move on. Well, I say that as somebody who's not purchased some of those games as well or played through them. So like I have opportunities to get that experience today, right? I've got Sonic Unleashed over there on 360 that I've not even touched once. I have Sonic Forces that I still got to pick up and play at some point. So there's spaces for me to explore. I need to check out Sonic Boom at some point. Lost Worlds looks interesting, I think. Lost Worlds, I feel like, is a good example of like that kind of Super Mario, like floating stuff aside. It is very much like a Super Mario Galaxy moment in terms of like the game's focus is not about Sonic's moveset, it's about how the world affects Sonic, right? I think that's like that's my impression of it. And that's a very Mario Galaxy kind of thing. I know people got weird about people like making connection to Mario Galaxy, but that seems to be what that game is. Like, how does the world affect Sonic? And I think that's a very smart design decision, and I love Mario Galaxy's approach to that. So I think there's like room for me to enjoy Sonic Lost Worlds someday. I'll probably get it on Wii U if it's not too expensive, but anyways. Sonic the Hedgehog, man. It's a hard topic.